good to be back. I actually, in the last few months, looked at this book called Scripture Twisting of James W. Sire. It's a very good book, 20 Ways in Which the Cults Must Read the Bible. I think it's a must-read for every pastor and every minister. It still amazes me to see that a lot of people are still making common mistakes, still committing some of the errors that I've mentioned in previous clips. You're welcome to check them out. I think this is number 12 and there's quite a few still to go. But the reason I discuss these is obviously just to show quite clearly how some individuals can actually be led astray or even make mistakes whenever they deduce a specific doctrine or theology. Today I want to look at point number 12, which Sire mentions in the book called Inadequate Evidences. Now, when he speaks about inadequate evidences, he says when hasty generalizations are drawn from inadequate or too little biblical evidence, we find ourselves with an inadequate evidence that sustains a specific doctrine. He writes the following. He says, some parts of the Bible are obscure, puzzling to say the least. Scholars simply don't know what is being said or referred to. Sometimes, even when we have considered all the evidence seemingly available in Scripture, there's not enough to satisfy our curiosity or to draw solid conclusions. He then adds, the Scripture does not always answer every question we bring to it, though only by asking and seeking are we likely to discover just which questions can't be answered. So Sire then goes on to mention some cults, like for instance the JWs, which is the Jehovah's Witnesses, and he mentions an example where they deny blood transfusion. And he would say they caution their members to keep free or to abstain from blood, which is obviously drawn from Acts chapter 15, 20 and 29. But then he says, but clearly the context does not speak against transfusions per se, or the consuming or eating of blood, because that's not what happened when you get a blood transfusion. But he says they use to cite or to build a doctrine upon this. More recently, I've discovered that a lot of other people also do this, and maybe this is a sacred cow, so let me speak out against this. But I've seen people use, for instance, Revelation chapter 4 verse 1, where John says, come up hither, as proof of the church being raptured or taken away. And let me just say, the sad reality is that this passage in and of itself is simply too narrow to claim or to say that the actual perusa is going to take place of the saints. Here's another example. Let me endeavor to find some more examples. For instance, I see pastors quote, for instance, 1 Kings and 2 Kings, specifically 1 Kings 16:31, as a proof to say that there is a specific Jezebel spirit that sometimes permeates certain females within the church to do certain things to subjugate or to belittle specifically patriarchal structures or men in authority. It is quite daunting to tell people that the Bible nowhere states that this is so. It's simply a deduction made, and people can speak. Mark Driscoll recently did a series on ancient demons, new days, which was actually very good, and he speaks of Jezebel. But, you know, the Scripture nowhere tells us exactly that there is a specific Jezebel spirit that is rampant within the world, but it's a deduction made, but there is no substantial proof for that to be so. So we can build all these pet doctrines basically based on our assumptions of what the Scriptures say, but we should steer away from inadequate passages to try to sustain major doctrines of the Bible. So I'm going to leave you with that. That's all I wanted to say, and do just a little short recording about it. Remember, like, click, and subscribe if you like these. I find them to be a lot of fun, but also tell others, share it, and remember to like the channel and to follow the channel. If we can get up to 1,000 members, there is a prize for the person that is number 1,000. Now, don't wait. Still like, click, and subscribe. I might give it to somebody else as well. But be blessed, and I'll speak to you again.